Another case of a young woman murdered most foully by the man she was in a relationship with. Another murder, another crime in which the man has gone about his normal life apparently just hours or minutes after committing that crime. Another murder where the woman killed has been stuffed into a fridge. Another murder where the man appears to be remorseless while confessing his crime. There are so many parallels, and one finds it difficult not to be reminded of the Shraddha Walkar murder case. But let's try and make sense of this with the experts, those who know a thing or two about crimes, about domestic abuse, about relationships of this kind, and what this says about us as a society. Joining me live on News Track, Varkha Cholani is one of India's most well-known clinical psychologists. Vikram Singh is former Director General of Police of Uttar Pradesh. He's investigated many crimes himself. Flora Saini is an actor. She's also been a victim of relationship abuse. Trisha Shetty is a social activist and a lawyer. Welcome to all of you. Good evening. Thank you very much for being with me. Varkha, I'm going to start it off with you first. We've had you on during the Shraddha Walkar coverage as well. It's difficult not to be reminded of that. An apparently totally normal scene, a relationship, a man committing a horrific crime, shoving the body of a woman into a fridge, and then carrying on totally normally. What did you think when you first heard about this?
I just believe that there are psychopaths all over the place, and I do believe that somewhere around what is happening in the recent past is, if you see the age group of people committing these kind of heinous acts and feeling absolutely remorseless, maybe a tendency of us as parents bringing up, particularly sometimes more boys than girls, with complete no consequences to their behavior. So they are literally getting away with murder. And their ability to tolerate frustration, especially rejection from the girls that they date, because they have very strange ideas of love and being loved, okay? And they're not able to withstand the rejection that someone says, no, I don't want to marry you, or I don't want to be with you, and possibly never experiencing a no in their families, in their homes, never having faced consequences for anything that, they've done, which is a wrong, so to speak. They possibly just believe that they are entitled, that they have to get their way. And it's a very sorry state, because society at large, particularly Indian society, is getting away with pretty much everything. There is no penalty, there are no consequences. And I think we are in an anarchy, a social ecosystem which is now getting into aggressive, demonstrative, and they believe, unfortunately, that they can get away. And they are getting away. And that's why I think a large part of us have to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, how are we bringing up our children? Why are we allowing them to face no deprivation? Why are we allowing them to get away with anything and everything? Why are there no consequences to bad behavior? Why are we not teaching frustration tolerance? I think as a society, today it's time for us to pause, because today it's murder number 2. But I don't believe that it's going to stop here. I think it's going to get worse. And it's time for us as a collective whole, as a society at large, to really start taking cognizance of penalties that we put in place, and see that those penalties are actually accrued to the person who commits crime, and of course to our parenting styles.
And obviously it may not be just 2, because, I have to say this, the media tends to focus on cases like these because they happen in the big cities. There must be cases of this kind happening elsewhere in the country as well that, evades the big media's eye. I will be honest when I say that. Flora, I don't want to ask any leading questions, because I genuinely want to know what all of you think about this case. Coming as it does so soon after the Shraddha Walkar murder. Flora, thoughts about this particular crime?
I don't know, it leaves me absolutely numb, because we just had Shraddha's case. And that was so, people were shocked throughout the country. So to see an exact copy of that, and so soon, it's like, I don't know what's wrong with people. And, if I could tell people, please, you have to, when you are in a relationship, and especially a live-in relationship, you're so close to your partner.
Yeah.
There's so many telltale signs of, the red flags that you get, and I'm sure this was, this was the final. I'm sure there would be some history of some sort of violence that would have taken place in those 5 years, because you don't just get that strength of killing someone you loved and dated for 5 years. Don't. It has to be, it's a build-up, that finally, so there has to be some sort of a history of abuse, which we know, I guess, a little later. But if I could tell all the girls out there, please be very careful, whoever you date, the minute you see the red flags, don't try and change, don't try and stick around that you will be able to change your partner or things will, get better. You get life only once. If it's not working out, if you're not happy, if your partner is in any way toxic or abusive, get out of there. You have only one life, and trust me, good love exists. It'll find you when the time is right, when your time to find that good love is, comes up.
I'm glad you said that, Flora, because that was going to be my next question to you about those danger signs in relationships. Those danger signs appeared to have existed in the Shraddha Walkar murder for sure, with everything that we've heard from that case. In the days ahead, perhaps we'll hear something of a similar nature about the relationship between Sahil and Nikki as well. One wonders what we'll hear. But Trisha, bringing you in on this, the parallels between the two cases are startling. I have to say that obviously each case is separate, but there's a sense of alarm. There's a sense of alarm when one looks at both these cases and looks at a man who sort of carries on with his, with his work, his day-to-day job. He got married just a couple of days after committing this murder.
Undoubtedly, I think we have to talk about the air of desensitization and dehumanization, right? It's easy to talk about violence when it's not within intimate settings. But the truth in India is over 97% of cases of violence is actually within intimate settings. And in these situations, there is unfortunately the additional layer of trauma, of shame that's put on survivors. So there is a sense of alienization where they don't know whom to reach out to, because you're essentially saying that the person abusing you is a person within your own home. The person that you trusted to spend maybe your life with is the person that's abusing you. So whom do you reach out to? Do you tell your family? And when you reach out to your family, often they don't know how to address it. Also, when you reach out to the police station, there's a sense of ghar ki baat ghar pe rakho. There's a hesitation because you also don't know how do you want to see your intimate partner in jail? So in these sort of situations, often what we find is survivors have gone through multiple abuses where they've reached a point of just complete dehumanization, and they don't know whom to reach out to. There's also severe mental trauma, and critically also we have to account for financial independence and stability. That becomes a huge factor, right? When you're sharing a home with person, your finances are intertwined. So you can't just pack up your bags and leave because you have to worry about finances. And then if there's a child in the equation, that's another factor. So this is a multi-level factor. And then, of course, when you talk about such violent cases, you are right that these violent cases come to light, but there are so many instances of abuse happening within homes that are just going unaddressed.
Absolutely, absolutely. I want to, I wanted to go back to Flora for just a minute, but I want to get that opening comment from Vikram Singh as well. Mr. Singh, the investigation was a very short one. It was cracked very, very quickly. Is there an element of crimes of this kind being inspired by earlier crimes? I apologize if that's an oversimplistic question, but here you have a man who has shoved his girlfriend's body into a fridge. The same sort of thing happened in the Shraddha Walkar case as well?
Absolutely, Shiv, you nailed it, because there is a precedence, and precedence in close proximity of time. Then there are web series, and there are also Netflixes and other channels which give wrong kind of ideas to the youth. Shraddha Walkar case perhaps is an example where perhaps Sahil got ideas, and he probably thought that if Aftab continues to be alive and continues without any sign of any punishment given to him till date, only a charge sheet, well, he probably thought he will get away with this murder too. That, of course, is again a There are things that all the three could have done better. The police, the society and the parents. But we'll talk of the police only. There are things that, yes, Aftab's case was cracked out, but yes, he could have been put in the fast track court and given exemplary treatment and punishment both. When I say treatment, don't mistake me for third degree of police brutality. I would say that yes, the time taken could have been into something that is better. I don't say that.
I understand what you're saying, sir. You're saying that the police should have sent out a message as far as punishment for this man is concerned. Varka, coming back to you, and I just want to fix that audio line with Mr. Singh, Vikram Singh, so that we can hear him a little more clearly. Varka, you know, we know Aftab killed Shraddha after an argument, and we understand that in this case as well, you know, he killed her with a charging cable, for God's sake, you know, after she found out that he was getting married. In your view, and forgive me if I'm using words that are incorrect, but, you know, could this be a murder driven by a sense of rage or a sense of control? You know, what does it look like?
So from whatever I read in the press, I believe he asked her to marry him. She refused. And that's when he got enraged and strangulated her. So there is something called narcissistic rage, where in a fit of rage, because I have been rejected and I have been deprived of what I believe.
Though in this particular case, she's the one who flew into he was the one who was getting married to someone else, and she had found out about it, and that's how the fight started.
Right. So, so the fight possibly began, and then he, realizing that he was cheating on her, or he was going to dump her, decided that, you know, maybe she would spill other beans of other facets of what he is as a person, and decided that he might as well end her life. But there is something called narcissistic rage, where we lose control over our senses temporarily, realizing that, you know, either we've been caught out or we've been found out. And instead of accepting and acknowledging that we have possibly made an error or we've made a mistake, we want to actually be defensive and be aggressive. So many a time, aggression is a form of defense, not wanting to accept to oneself that one has unfortunately made an error. So yes, I would say that, I mean, this came out of absolute uncontrolled rage.
You know, Flora, I completely agree with Trisha when she says there are so many layers, you know, to the kind of interconnections between people in relationships, and you know, one can wonder till kingdom come about why you know, a young woman who, you know, appears to be in control of her life doesn't walk away from a toxic relationship. But you know, and again, I don't want to oversimplify, because there can't be one blanket rule for everyone. But what are those warning signs? You know, as we end this discussion, what are some of the general warning signs that you think young people should look out for?
I think, you know, like I said, Ki, there cannot be any one, like this can't be the only act of violence, and violence at what extent. So there has to be, there has to have been a history of domestic violence between the two of them, and, you know, between, so like we spoke about narcissist and toxic partners, they have a pattern, and the pattern involves kind of physical, mental, you know, abuse that goes on till one day, because you can't get the strength to kill someone. You know, you have to have, and the very fact that he was getting married that day, I mean, think about it, he was so cool and composed, okay, I've, you know, killed someone, I put them in a fridge, I go ahead and get married like nothing happened. So God, it takes a lot of, it takes a stone heart to, you know, probably go ahead and get on with it and say, you know, I'll take care of things, or I got this. You don't know what kind of a mindset is that, but then definitely it's not a normal person. And what people need to learn is there are small little things that lead to this, small acts of violence that kind of, you know, sum up to this one big act of violence. So if there's one thing I could tell everyone would be that the first act of violence is your warning sign. You have to make people around you aware that you're dating someone who has this tendency of being violent. I don't think you should even consider staying any longer after the first, but yes, girls, stick around. But you know, you have to tell yourself this is not going to change, and you have to make yourself strong to get out of there.
Okay.
That's the
on that useful piece of information, you know, from people who've, you know, who've been there, who've seen it, who've experienced it, I'm going to end this discussion. I wish I had more time, but I have a feeling we're going to be tracking this story over the next few days, just like we did the Shraddha Walkar murder as well. And I think we owe it to Nikki Yadav to continue to find out more layers of this story. And I'm sure we will. I will continue to report on this story very, very sensitively. Thank you very much, Varka, Flora, Mr. Singh and Trisha for being with me here on India Today's News Track. Thank you very much.